So Stomped issue 2 is going to be the next review that we're doing. Very different issue compared to the first one. Follows the same story structure of we're going to do 2 stories right next to each other with a funny little bit at the end. But, there's a little bit of crossover from the first story. And, I kind of really like that. The first story in this, though, is completely, so far, unrelated to the other ones.
It's super horror-ish.
Yeah,
which I
yeah,
like.
it really was. It took a turn that I was not expecting.
Yeah. No, the first story is Mass.
Yeah.
This one was by Ross Radke, who's a big mastermind behind this whole Stop series. And the art was by Hugo Fielpermov. I'm sorry about that name. I really hope I didn't mess up that last name, but I know Hugo's your main name.
Yeah.
And the lettering is by Hassan Ostman Elahu, and he's done the lettering for previous Stomp issues and future Stomp issues for sure, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I know he did I think he's done all the lettering so far, I believe.
Yeah. And so Mass, it opens up on a lab, almost sort of like how, in the first issue of Stomp opened up. It opened up on the lab, but this lab is much different. They have like a tank filled with what looks like a mess, a fleshy mess.
Yeah, it's really freaky.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know what to look like.
Just a massive tissue, just
it's like a glob of tissue.
Yeah, just like
almost like a heart or something.
Yeah,
with like hairs on it.
Yeah, so they're feeding it, and they're not getting really any great results. But the female scientist keeps she thinks she sees it moves, but she doesn't know. And finally, the male scientist is like, "Oh, I saw it too." So they happen to be having relations, and we don't get to see anything. But during that, towards the end, we hear one of them screaming. They don't really show who it was, but it cuts to the next day. Female scientist in the break room. She's got some grab marks on her wrist, that some pretty bad bruising. And the third scientist that they're working with, who they just introduced in the scene, is like, "Hey, I know you guys are doing stuff, but are you okay? I don't want this affecting work." He's like, sees her wrists that are all messed up. And she's like, "Yeah, we just had a little bit of an argument. It's not going to affect work anymore. It's going to be fine." And that's where this story starts getting real creepy. I don't know if you want to take on from here.
Yeah, we see her go back to the tank, and she's feeding it what looks like some fleshy stuff, which we can only assume was her lover.
Yeah.
And the thing's loving it, it's eating it. And it gets to a point where she's kind of leaning over a desk, and the other scientist is kind of checking her out from behind. And she kind of was like, "Oh, let's," just cuts to the next scene, and the two of them are getting at it. And then all of a sudden, she's putting her hands around his neck, and you see this almost tentacle come out of her nose, her nostril. And then he's like, "What the hell is that?" And then you see she just starts choking him out.
Yeah.
And she kills that guy. And then the next day, there's people at lunch, and they're like, "Where the hell are these two guys? They disappeared." First, she was with the other dude, and then she was with this guy. And then you see she's got some connection with this thing, and then now it's growing.
Yeah, it is a full size, not full size kaiju, but it's an organism now. It's not just a hunk of flesh.
Yes, it's like a floating potato monster.
Yeah, it's right above Frankie's head, the thing with the 6 green glowing eyes. So basically, what this kaiju's doing, and the way that this the opening panel of this comic is they mention that none of these kaiju share biology or have any similarities. So research on one doesn't quite lead to research on all of them. So this one exhibits some type of mind control power. So one of the female scientists walks into the room and sees her kind of like touching, almost petting this kaiju, and she's like, "What are you doing?" The two doctors come from behind. The two male doctors that we presumed were murdered and fed to the kaiju walk up from behind, grab her, and say, "This is only going to take a second." They like poke her with a needle. The kaiju pokes her with some type of needly appendage, and now she's also under this mind control. So, we're not sure if this kaiju's consuming these individuals and then putting out copies of them, or if it's just straight mind control. We're not quite sure, but it's definitely got a taste for flesh. And in the next panel, it's just funny. Now the monster is sitting in the mess hall, and they're just bringing over trays of it looks like organs.
Yeah, so I don't know, they made you. It was pretty cool because they kind of make you assume that, oh, she's like chopping up this dude's body and like feeding it to the thing, but then you see him appear at the end and you're like, oh, that's not the case. So does he have one of those tendrils? Is it like going up her nose? Like she had something in her from this monster,
and
so I don't know if that's part of the mind control.
Yeah.
Is it like a worm thing that controls the brain? Almost like I don't know if you've seen it. It's a comic book series as well, and it was also a TV show. It was called The Strain. It was about vampires, but the way those vampires worked was there was almost a worm. It was like a parasite would get into you, and that's what the master would use to control all the other vampires. It was almost like a vampire-ish zombie show. Like they were vampires, but they were kind of zombie-like too, and they were all like a hive mind. So I'm wondering if this is something similar. Maybe that tendril is almost like a worm that's inside her brain, controlling her, and maybe that's what they were injecting in this. Maybe it's just like microscopic, like organism worm type of thing, and it's going to grow inside that lady now, and she's going to have one of those inside her.
Yeah, and while they're doing these shots of it being fed this trays, which again looks like organs that they're feeding them, it cuts to this pharmaceutical rep that's, talking to investors about our research is going really far. We have all this success, and compared to other trials, they're so far behind us. But you can see she's got the almost like the same green glowy eyes as the kaiju. So we're to assume that this kaiju now has an entire pharmaceutical company working for it. But the dangerous part is now, I'm just trying to... I haven't read the next issue yet, so I don't know if this gets brought up any further, but she's pushing medical treatments. So is this going to start affecting a large chunk of the population that are going to be infected with this kaiju's mind control?
Could be.
That's pretty crazy. I don't know if that's where this is going. Again, I haven't read issue 3 yet. I want to review it from a point of view of not seeing it yet, but I know you've already read. But really interesting story. Awesome. Want to see where it's going.
Oh yeah, and Ross just announced the other day. I saw him say on Twitter he put the timeline out of all the stories. So you kind of have to hop around with these stories if you want. Once you have all 4 comics, you could read them in chronological order if you want. But he did say that there is going to be a graphic novel follow-up once this series is complete, which is pretty exciting. I mean, we knew a story was follow-up was coming, but we know it's in the works now. It's going to be a graphic novel, so it's going to be a big boy, I guess, because usually graphic novels are a nice size book.
I mean, he was asking too about Stomped issue 4. He was saying it might be 160 pages.
Oh, I think he was saying 68 or something like that.
68?
Yeah.
Oh, so maybe he's looking for one more long. I must have misread. One more long form story because this one's a 44 pager. So
yeah. So 68 would be maybe another story or 2.
Yeah. So on the second story of this anthology is called Might. MITE, not GHT. And again, story and colors by Ross Radke, art by Guy Pardell, and again letters by uh,
Pradell.
yeah, Pardell, and then again letters by Hassan Otsman Elrov. Sorry,
Oahu.
Oahu, maybe.
Yeah.
Don't want to. Sorry for messing that up. Again, no offense. Don't mean to mess up anybody's name. Just trying my best. One thing I gotta say about Might is I really, I like the art by Ross Radke and everybody else too. This one is really cool though, like the art style. It's it's nice. And then I really like Ross's choices of colors on this too, like the color palette. I kind of based our framing off of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just noticed that.
Yeah, because I really like the colors. I was like, it's kind of really cool. But anyway, we start off in the desert, and they have this researcher in the desert, and he's trying to do a non-lethal kaiju intervention. So he's created this little squid robot you can see above us, and he's trying to show it off to the military and be like, hey, instead of killing these kaiju, they're worth a lot of money because there's a lot of resources we can gather from them. It might be worth just trying to mind control them instead, and kind of like force them into submission. So this robot's supposed to have like a paralytic agent of sorts. So we get a cameo from the last comic book.
A hybrid.
Yeah, we get a hybrid, and this one's.
Was this hybrid in the Madrid story though?
No.
This is it's basically another hybrid. It looks like King Louis basically, from the live action Jungle Book to me, because it's basically a giant ape hybrid. I can't. The name of the ape is escaping me right now.
It's the one that looks like the orangutan, but has the like the trapezoidal head things that go like this. I'm really bad with the I don't know.
I knew the name and I just lost.
I don't know.
Ape.
But it was really nice seeing that they're still using these hybrids, and the guy's like, I thought you guys destroyed all these, and he's like, do you have any idea how much these hybrids cost? He's like, do you think we're gonna kill them? So he's saying, this is one that's been causing issues anyway. So he's like, I don't care if this test goes well or not. He's like, this thing's out to pasture anyway.
Yeah.
So what I think this is probably an unfair test because these hybrids are so much smaller than a normal kaiju. Bot activates, Might crawls up to the back of the orangutan's neck, just about to inject it, and then he just rips it off and destroys it.
It's like a mosquito bite.
Yeah, I feel like if it was a bigger kaiju, it would not have the mobility to do that, and these mites probably would have,
worked.
Been effective. But because it's so much smaller, it's again, it's easier to hit a bigger fly than it is to hit a smaller fly.
Yeah.
And you can go.
And then speaking of these mites and talking about bigger kaiju, we actually do see the mites appear in what we spoke about last episode, the Return to Madrid comic, which according to Ross's timeline, that's actually the final comic in the timeline currently. So that's like yes. Yeah, he posted a timeline.
Well, I didn't even notice that they were in the Madrid comic. I can't believe that.
It was there briefly, and the scientist, he was in there also.
Oh man, I can't believe I missed that.
Yeah. So this, if you've read the Madrid, which was sort of a in between before this, you saw these mites before you. The mites.
Oh yeah, definitely a more advanced form.
Yeah.
Oh my god, why did I miss this? This is awesome.
Yeah, so this is part of the crossover. This is part of the world building that Ross is doing. He's each of these little stories is bringing somebody in for a bigger story that we're going to be getting down the line, which is pretty awesome. But anyway, the my story continues. They end up going to France, and
yeah,
there's a big monster stomping around France. I love the design of this monster. It's like a walking crocodile up on its two legs with like eyes all down its body.
Yeah, it's really awesome. It's the cover monster for this issue. So again, if we're gonna have it linked down below, the Ross Radke shop, and you can buy the digital comic book. I think it's only $1. He has the PDF file for, and these are again amazingly drawn, well worth your money. But anyway, the government kind of pushes off the scientist as like, oh, your project's a failure, steals his technology, and apparently they were interested in it prior to the test. And they were like, turns out his assistant was like, I think the whole reason they had you go out there was for you to not be in your lab. They stole his technology, and you see these new mite bots they're going to use on this alligator-like kaiju. And like they just look like knockoffs, like complete different design. They don't look as cool looking. You know what I mean? Like, it looks like, they just didn't get it. It's like when they had those Iron Man suits from Iron Man 2 where they just were like garbage.
Yeah.
That's what these are.
I mean, who knows? Clearly he's going through a process. We've seen different forms of these robots. I mean,
well, yeah, the one in Madrid is so much more advanced, and he's behind this. He's clearly not behind these ones.
Yeah.
So he doesn't like that. He doesn't like that his research got stolen. So they cover this kaiju and these mite bots, and then boom, a giant EMP goes off. And, they're freaking out in this, were they in a helicopter or airplane? I forget. But they're freaking out because they're like, our systems...
They're like a command center, and there was a helicopter that flew over and dropped them.
Yeah. They're like, our whole system's down. These mite bots don't work. What happened? They're like, oh, this kaiju must have, like, EMP abilities. So they're, scrambling, trying to figure out what happens. Turns out Doc's here on the ground. He set off his own EMP because he wanted to sabotage these mites. And he ends up, he like kind of blows up like the whole city. But it was already destroyed, the city, so it's not like he killed people or anything like that. But he takes care of like the kaiju and everything like that, and he's like, I've secured that they need me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he was like, no, you're not stealing my tech and using it. If you're going to use it, you need me.
Yeah.
Which, good on him. I really like this story. And again, the coloring through me was awesome. The artwork is great too.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite designs. I love the picture that you have above us when the EMP goes off, basically. Yeah. That's like one of the coolest shots. I just love that picture from that page.
Yeah.
That whole page art right there.
Yeah, I was debating
it could easily be a poster, honestly.
It could be. I was debating that or the cover because both of them were so well drawn. The art in this whole series is amazing.
No, these have been one of my favorite comics recently. I mean, it's definitely up there for kaiju comics for me.
Yeah.
Awesome series thus far. Yeah. And I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah.
And we have one more story in here.
Yeah.
And this one, it's another twisted, horror-ish, I would say, story called Slice of Life.
This one was heavy. So it's just a pizza delivery guy doing his job in a post-kaiju apocalypse. So, he gets his delivery. He has to go out to, like, the middle of nowhere because, like, everybody's living in, like, bunkers now. So he's driving out there. You just see all this wreckage. Rolls up to the house. And delivers the pizza to somebody living in, like, a little, like one of those Cold War, like, fallout shelters
in the backyard.
Yeah, like one of those little fallout shelters that wasn't going to protect anybody from any type of nuclear fallout, but we still made them in the USA for some reason.
Yeah. And on his way out the door from the pizzeria to make this delivery, his boss is like, "Hey, we're almost out of a bunch of toppings. See if you can get some fresh ingredients." So after he makes his delivery, he goes to the supermarket,
which is just completely run down.
it's basically an abandoned
Yeah.
supermarket. It's like a post-apocalyptic supermarket. So he's like, "Oh, look, there's some beans on the floor, some onions that have been sitting there." He's not actually buying anything. He's kind of just looting, scavenging it. So he's getting the onions. There's some rotten bacon, a rotten turkey laying in the fridge. And then all of a sudden he sees he steps on a can of pineapples and looks down, and he sees a hand.
Yeah, I think it's like underneath a bunch of cans, so I'm assuming
Yeah.
maybe the guy was trying to climb a shelf and
And
it fell down on top of him.
and the guy died.
Yeah.
So the pizza delivery guy discovered some pineapple for the pizza and a body.
Yeah.
So what's he gonna do with this dead guy? So he goes back to work. He's like, "I got you some ingredients," and then he's like, "Oh, so I got you fresh meat in the trunk too." And then he hands his boss the dead guy's driver's license,
Yeah.
and then the license is a guy from Ontario, so he's a Canadian. And the boss goes, "Oh, it beats the roadkill that we had last week." And as you see, for the final frame of the comic, the boss is writing on the board for toppings, Canadian bacon.
Terrible.
So this guy's just using roadkill, dead people for toppings.
Yeah. Yeah, another great issue. Probably gonna read number 3 tonight.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, awesome. And again, in all these issues, they always do the like the sketchbook, the making of, and it was cool to see the concept art for the original Mass.
Oh yeah, the mask concept art was really awesome. There's so many different ways this thing could have gone. I mean,
yeah, I don't know if these are designs that maybe they'll repurpose for the future, or something, but really awesome. And then, I just really like the that alligator kaiju, and it was cool to see the different colorations that they could have used.
Yeah, I think they call the alligator monster Shoni.
Oh, Shoni.
I believe is the pronunciation for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the alligator monster, the hybrid designs, and we also see a bunch of different bot concepts too for the Mite.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool. I would love to see those in future comics too. See how this Mite evolves.
Yeah, it's now that you mentioned that Madrid thing, I'm like, oh man, I should have picked up on that. But yeah, I think that's it as far as Stomped. Again, you can go check it out on their website. Super affordable, and it's a great read. And I think they're going to be doing a Kickstarter in October.
Yeah, so we're going to do issue 3, either next episode or one of the episodes after that, and then we'll be all caught up for issue 4's Kickstarter launch, and we're going to be pushing that hard.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be any trouble getting that funded.
No.
This series has been fantastic. We're 3 issues deep now, so it's got its followers. It's gotten funded successfully 3 times. If you want to pick up the previous issues, you get digital and physical for the first 2 on Ross's website. Digital's $4, physical is $5 for the first, $7 for the second, and $4 for digital on that one as well.
$4 for digital. Yep. I don't know why I thought it was $1. I think the Madrid one is.
The Madrid's only $1.
Yeah,
that was like
but still, $4
that was like
is
a Kickstarter
nothing.
like promotion thing that he did.
Yeah.
$4
is nothing for this book. This is an amazing book.
Yes, it's pocket change. Totally worth getting it for $4.
Yeah.
Money well spent for you.
Definitely.
The 3rd issue is not available on his website just yet. If you want to wait for October and pick them all up in one shot with the Kickstarter campaign, which is probably the best way to go because it'll help get the campaign funded. You could get all 4 of them. I'm positive it'll be one of the campaign incentives is to get all 4 issues.
Yeah, definitely. It would be cool if they did a trade paperback tier where you got all 4 issues in one big book.
That would be cool. I don't know if that's one of his plans. So that would be cool if they did do a trade paperback option.
Or maybe a separate Kickstarter in the future or something like
Yeah.
that. I would like to have a big trade paperback.
Yeah, yeah. I really like this series, and I can't wait to see where it's going to go. And I'm excited that he announced that there is a graphic novel in the works. I believe he said it was called Stomped Live. Is what the story was going to be called. There was a tweet the other day. I lost it in my head now what he said about it, but there is a graphic novel in the works, so we're going to see some more of Kim Corrigan and the rest of the Stomped crew.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, check out Stomped, guys.
All right. See you.